Okay, so we're looking at this MKX here, and I've got the intake pulled off like in my previous videos, and I've moved it out a little farther. Now if you maneuver this hose around a little bit, you can still leave it connected and just shove it over here. It's plastic, it's really light, it's not going to bother anything, just sitting over there. Alright, now what we're doing here is we're doing the valve cover gaskets. And I've already done the front ones, and I put new seals on all the holes. And I've got some of these loosened up, and I just wanted to kind of get to a point where I could show what's going on. Now, somebody had these valve cover gaskets off before. I don't know if you can see in the crack there. They siliconed it all the way around, and it's take forever to clean that. So please don't do that. If it's leaking, just put a new gasket, because you're going to cause problems for people in the future. But anyway, so I'm going to stick this camera back there and give everybody a good look. Now this valve cover is going to come off nice and easy straight up, okay? And what I did is I disconnected the injectors and got all that wire and pushed it over there. Hey! And this is what, there's a couple volts in the back here we're going to have to get out. But that's what everything looks like. That's the plug for the oxygen sensor right here. And I just kind of shoved everything back and got it out of the way. We have really nice clearance on this. And I'm not going to really go too technical into a lot of this stuff, but I am going to show how to do the seals. So just hang on a minute and we'll get to that step. Alright, so I've got the seals. Now, the type of gasket that I got for this is a Feltberg gasket. And the way these seals go in is they go in from the top. But they also are pressed out from the top, like straight through. Just keep on going through. And what I've got is I've got an Astro 7824 kit driver, okay? Now this thing will work fine for driving in the new seal, but the problem I have with that is it doesn't line well enough for me. So what I got is I got a big old socket, and this socket fits in that seal just fine. And it's kind of the same idea. The seal, it's a metal clad type seal. And I'll get an old one and show you what it looks like. This is one of the old ones that I drove out, okay? It's got metal. It's like a spring steel type cladded, rubber cladded seal. And it's got this lip around the bottom. You will not be able to drive it out through the top. Because of this lip here, you're going to have to push it through. And when you put the new seal in, you'll drive it in the same way. You'll drive it until it's flush at the top right here, and you'll see that right here. You'll see that right here at the top, it's just flush at the top, and that's it. And when it's in there correctly, it hangs out the bottom, and obviously the rubber swells up over time. So when I did this before, it wasn't too bad. I did it without this socket, but eventually moved to the socket because it works so much better. But because it fits in there nicely, you could get in there and tap it a couple of times, and that socket just pops out. It just pops it out. And that's all it takes. I know that looks way too easy, but it was. It was that easy. It's out, it's done. That's it. Now, the reason why I put my feet on it like that is because you don't want the rigidity of the cover to bounce. You don't want it to bounce. You want it to stay solid against the ground or shop table or whatever you do it on. You don't want to hit it anywhere on there besides exactly on the seal. Now, the way this socket fits on there, it's a nice, it's a blessing that this particular socket fits on there perfect. Okay, this is like 1 1/8" impact socket, really heavy duty socket. And this little lip right here fits on there perfect. And it reminds me of a transmission bushing driver tool. So if you mess around and see about finding a tool that fits in there nice, a socket or whatever, it will help, but you don't have to do it that way. You can get a Sawzall blade, and you can cut it from the inside and score it, and that'll weaken it. And then you can drive it out after you weaken it real nice. But just be careful and don't go into that aluminum, because you're going to have problems. There's not enough meat on those new seals, not enough rubber meat on there to to take up for a scratch like that. So alright, so I showed one being drove out, and that's good enough. Let me do the rest of these and I'll show one being drove in. Okay, so that's the new one there. I'm about to drive it in. Okay, now the way these go in is this faces up. Faces up, and it looks like this faces up. Okay, and when you set it in there, you're going to set it in like that with that facing up. Now, when I put them in, these particular ones, I didn't put any lube on them or anything like that. I don't think that's required because it is sort of an interference fit. So I don't think that that's going to matter very much, and they are kind of springy. But I get my little Astro driver here from a Astro 7824 kit, and you just want to try to get it in there and start it evenly. Now see, right now the way it's setting, it's crooked. It's in there crooked, so if it's crooked, you know, you probably want to get it and straighten it up a little bit. One of the things that will help with doing these kind of things is heating it up a little bit with a hot air gun. If you heat it up a little bit, that would help a whole lot. I'm not going to do that because I don't really think it's necessary. But I don't think I'll be able to do this with one hand. But I got it started, but I won't be able to. I have to hold it with one hand and do the hammer with the other. So let me get that done. All right, so I got all three of them put in, and what you'll notice is that your tool will float there on the rubber part of the seal here in the middle. This part of the tool, this part of it that sticks out. So you want to push past that. You have to push past that so that you get purchase on the outside edge of that seal. Okay, if you just let it float, okay, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it in there if you just let that tool float on there like that. And you'll find that these seals here on this end of the cover are easier than this one because this one has a larger area to flexing area. So it will be a little more bouncy on there. But you have to be careful and push past that spring part. You'll feel it when you push down on it. You'll feel it go past it. You'll feel that little spring. That part you have to hold when you hold your tool. When you hold your tool, you're going to have to hold it so that you can push down before you hit it with the hammer. If you just hit it with it just sitting on the edge of that seal like that, it's going to bounce around, and it's going to be a little bit more difficult to put it in. You probably could get it in, but you might damage something too. So we don't want to do that. If the edge of this is sitting on the flex part of the seal without it being pressed down and zero clearance, if you hit it hard enough to run that in there, run that seal in there, then this tool is going to travel a ways and get a lot of momentum before it touches the edge of that metal clad part. Okay, and you don't want to do that because when the seal gets closer to being installed and it's going to stop on this edge of aluminum, and you keep doing that and you hit that edge, you're going to break it. So just be careful with that. Okay, we don't want to break anything. If they're not leaking and you don't feel comfortable doing this, then don't do it. Okay, this is a valve cover in the back. They weren't leaking, but I feel more comfortable doing this kind of thing, and I'd rather go ahead and replace them all. And when, of course, obviously, when you do it on the concrete, you're going to ding this up a little bit. Well, that doesn't bother me any at all. Okay, it's got a little abrasion here and there from the rocks. That's fine. I'm going to wash this thing off and clean it up. It'll be just fine because it has a rubber seal that goes along here that stands up about 3/16 of an inch, and this edge here doesn't have anything to do with sealing surface. So anyway, there's one more thing I'm going to show, and that is going to be the end of it. Now, I use these scissors. I usually call them my Klein 95s, but they're Friskers 9503 003s. I use these scissors to trim this old rubber gasket off of there, and what I do is I just cut the big part first, in which I don't even know if I can do it in the camera, but I trimmed this part first. Let me do that and show it. All right, so after I get it trimmed like that with the scissors, you see it's very easy to get it off. You're going to spend all day long trying to take that thing off without cutting it. Sometimes these things are hard, super hard, and you'll have to use some cutters to cut that off, and you can just squeeze it with some pliers like this and get it to stand up a little bit, and you can get some end nippers or cutters in there and cut that. When they're pliable like this, you can just shove the scissors in there and do it. But when they're super hard, you'll have to just get some pliers and squeeze it and go in there and cut that sucker. So when I put these back together, what I do is I get some silicone. Where's my silicone? Let me go get that. I get some silicone and I juice that sucker up real good so that when you go to stick it on here, which I don't even know if I can do it with one hand, it'll slip on, and that's what you're going to be doing. Well, takes two hands. Maybe not. Anyway, that's as good as it's going to be for this. Just press it on there with two hands. Probably maybe do it with one hand. There we go. Just want to slide it over there like that. There. And then I'll get some silicone and I'll put it around this outside edge so that when I slip it in the hole and install it on there on the valve cover like these, it'll slip in easily and not bust one of these little edges off or anything. So anyway, so that's the end of what I'm going to show here. Now before you put that valve cover back on with your new seals, make sure and clean these posts up here so that any dirt or debris that's on there gets cleaned off. You don't just shove it in your motor. All right, well that's it. Y'all have a good day. I hope this helps somebody. Please subscribe.